So let's set up getting to our some internal data and hiding our our slides. So we're back at that same one. I'm going to use that same show, and I'm just going to use the Prius and the Civic slides um, as um, um, as ways to hyperlink. So we'll just do it a couple of times. So we've created all of our objects, and I'm going to click. First of all, what I'm going to do is create my link to the slide that I want to link to, and then I'll create the link from that slide back to this original slide, to our takeoff point, so to speak. So I'm going to simply click on Prius. I'm actually clicking twice because I want to get to my button specifically, and just because of the way I've designed this, there are some other underlying objects. I've clicked on there. I now have that Prius selected. I'm going to my Insert tab, and I'm going to go to Action. And I'm going to click on the Action button. I'm going to choose my action. Well, my action is to hyperlink to. There's several things we can do. We can actually ask it to go out and run another program if we want to, or have some particular action on the object. But we'll just stay with this whole hyperlink to begin with. And I want to hyperlink to a slide, not necessarily the next slide. Yeah, I always feel it's best to name the object you want to get to rather than just say go to the next or go to the next. We can do that if we're using next back kind of controls, and you'll see that in the book where you're working with controls. You click on next and it takes you to the next slide. You click on the back arrow, you go back a slide, etc. So for navigation controls that makes sense, but if I'm setting up a place that I want to be able to hyperlink anywhere, next slide is not where I want to go. I want to go to a particular slide. So I'm going to click on that down arrow. I'm going to scroll down until I can find this thing that says slide. I'm going to click on that. It's going to open a list of the slides in my show. I know I'm looking for the Prius. The software is smart enough to have picked up this name. It says it's slide 2, and the name of that slide is being taken off the title of the slide. So if you use the layout, the basic layouts, and make sure that you have that, use something in the title, that'll show up in this list, and I'm going to say OK. I'm just selecting it and choosing OK. Then I click OK and I'm good. Now how am I going to get back to this one? Well, I'm going to click on this slide. I'm going to set this object here. Since this is where my mouse pointer is going to be, this slide is basically a duplicate of this first slide without this portion of it, this bottom portion where we have the buttons. So my mouse pointer, when I click here, and it will pretty much be showing someplace in here. I'll show you how that works. You saw it on the first show. So I'm just going to click on that background object. This is actually the the chart area, and I'm going to insert my action to hyperlink again, choosing the slide, because this could happen anywhere in the show. It just happens to be right now this units sold happens to be the first slide in the show, but that could be 20, 30 slides into this show, and I'll click OK. Then I click OK, and I've come back to this slide when I click there. When I click there in this chart area. Let's do it again for Civic. Again, I'm going to click twice just so that I have my Civic button selected. My action, hyperlink to. I'm going to choose slide. I go out and find my Honda slide, my Honda Civic market share slide. I click OK. That is where I want to go. OK. I come to my Honda market share slide. I choose that area again, my chart area. I'm going to go to Action, Hyperlink to. I'm going to go down and find my slide. And I want to come back to my units sold slide, and I'm going to click OK and OK. And I've set them to go. Now, to make a slide, right now, if I play this show and I go to the next slide, from this slide I'm going to jump right to number 2 and then to number 3 because they're not hidden right now. You'll remember in part one of this lecture series, basically when I went to my next slide, I popped down here to slide 11 because it was the next available slide. In other words, the next visible slide. To set a slide to hidden, I'm just going to select the slide, right click, come down to the bottom of the list and choose Hide Slide. And that's how simple it is. I'm going to the Honda Civic, I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to choose Hide the Slide. And now those slides are hidden. And my show will play. All of these 2 through 10 are invisible if I click to the next slide from slide 1. I'll go from slide 1 to slide 11 if I just choose to show the show that way, or I can stop and talk about market share. So I have that flexibility in my show. Initially, I would have set up this slide, because I did duplicate this, to have so that I didn't have to always come back and set this area to return each time I made another slide. I would have simply made that happen at that moment, and then each of these would have been duplicated. In other words, I could have copied this slide over and over and over again, having already set this object here to return back to this unit sold by brand. Okay. This last part is really simple, and that is that you create your object, you select your object, you go to hyperlink and type in to get to an outside source. I'm clicking here on this existing file or web page, and I just simply click in or copy the link to my outside source. So I've cancel. I will come in. I will choose my object. I go to hyperlink, and I just simply copy in. I'll delete it first, and then I'll copy it back in using my Control C, Control V kind of keyboard, and I click OK. And I've created my hyperlink to any outside source. These again were duplicated, aligned, things like that. I should probably do a movie on all of that one time. All right, thanks for listening.